walking alongside somewhere.
Welcome to the virtual couch. Please take a seat for pillars, emotional maturity, and for
Are you ready?
pillars for the tree. You're not
Tell Mackie. We got Mackie moderating tonight.
so check that
Tell her.
out. You
They're
don't
on.
know what you don't know.
Okay.
It's what it's all about.
How's it sound? Can you tell I'm there?
Yeah, I think it's good.
It's okay? Okay, I wonder on Instagram. Well, we don't really have a way to get any feedback on Instagram,
Oh.
right? Hey, Instagram.
Oh, I could do
Wait,
it. I could do it on my laptop.
can you? All right. Then we'll have an idea. So, hey everybody. We've got a different setup tonight, so we actually can't even see anything. You are going to be able to see things, which is great. Sydney, welcome back on camera. You've been like off to the side doing the producing, and it's nice to have you back.
Nice to be here.
Is it though?
I'm stressed right now. I need to like sage myself.
Okay, I got the sage over there. Can we like rub it on you or anything like that, or
Really?
no? Okay, that's kind of a funny story. I think I don't know. There's some psychology principle here where there was I told Sid that a lot of times as a couples therapist, there will be a couple that will be going through something, and I'll have an intense session, or maybe a few. And you remember that time that you said, okay, I'm going to sage your office?
Yeah.
And then I came in the next day, and I really thought, okay, I think I pick up on some sage, some smell, some vibe. And so then I think I texted you and I said, Sid, I'm all in on this now. Like what you did, the whole office feels better. And then you let me know.
I did not, in fact, sage that night.
So that, my friends, is called the placebo effect. That's what that was. But it was very powerful because that entire day, I really thought, okay, this stuff is good. This saging, like, she needs to do this every day. And that's funny. You could have told me. I'm glad you told me that you didn't do it, though.
Yeah.
I know. So I think a good people pleaser might have said, oh, yeah, it's so great. But you were honest. Yeah? Okay, so, hey, welcome back, TikTok. When we did this last Sunday night, we weren't doing YouTube tonight. That's fine. There are only a couple, right?
It's okay.
Yeah. So welcome back, TikTok. Last Sunday night when we did a live, which we're used to doing, there just started to be TikTok again, but there was no live. And Instagram people, great to see you as well. But we want all of your questions. We want all of your questions around mental health. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I am not giving therapy. I am just processing. I'm answering questions tonight. That's what I'm doing. So please see your therapist if you are looking for therapy. But we can talk about anything. Emotional immaturity. It's one of my hot topics. All the way up to narcissistic traits and tendencies, and anxiety, depression. I have a couple of am I overreacting, and I thought maybe that would be a good thing to warm up with.
Yeah, we already have a few questions.
Oh, do we really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, really good. Okay, but this is a really funny one to me. This one, and it's real because the person said a lot about it. Am I overreacting? My boyfriend steps in dog poop, but thinks it's normal. And then she goes on to tell a story that they live in a gated condo complex. There's strict rules about disposing of dog waste, and her boyfriend, instead of walking on the sidewalk, always walks through the grass, which she said saves him about 30 seconds. And it's been 5 or 6 times now where he tracks it into the house. And he honestly, she said he's so unaware of his surroundings. And I told him I feel like his mom, constantly reminding him to watch where he's walking and to mind himself. And then she said that the more that she talked to him about it, he thinks that stepping in it is a pretty normal thing, and he's telling her that she's the one that's overreacting. Your thoughts?
Don't leave him.
It's crazy. That really is. I mean, I can't even believe it's... And that when there were thousands of people that were commenting on that, and none of them, 0% said, yeah, it's pretty normal. I think that's what a lot of normal people do. So, I don't know. I guess that's about all there is to say about that one. That one is not clip-worthy. All right, what do we got? Let's go to questions. Let's do that. What?
Okay, how do you fix low self-worth and self-confidence?
Ooh, okay. So I like going to you first. Do you have some thoughts on this?
I don't know.
Low self-worth and...
I'm not feeling very confident right now, so it's not a good time for me.
Okay, it's interesting. I was preparing for a upcoming podcast. Not right now. I'm working on one on attachment. I've got another one on highly sensitive people, but I've got one down the line a little bit more on this topic. And I was talking about there's some studies that have been done, and I can pull these things up. But it was in 2009. I think it was in Canada. I want to say University of Waterloo. It almost sounds like made up. But it was talking about how people that if they have low self-esteem, that if they are trying to tell themselves positive affirmations, that it can actually have more of a net negative effect. Because if they already feel bad about themselves and they're trying to tell themselves, hey, you are lovable, you are okay, that then they argue with themselves about it. And so I just bring that up because I think a lot of the conventional ways that we might think to handle certain situations cannot be the right way to handle them.
So what are you supposed to do? Tell yourself that you're ugly?
No, you do not. But instead of that, it's more of okay, my thoughts and my feelings are there, and we're going to acknowledge them. We all have thoughts and feelings, but this is where we start learning how to change your relationship with your thoughts. Because in any given moment, you can have so many different thoughts. But what we do is we tend to hook onto certain thoughts. So our brain will tell us stories. You're unlovable. You're broken. Nobody will love me. But it can also at times say, okay, but I'm going to figure this out. Or somebody's going to therapy, or they're reading books, or they're listening to a live, and so they're starting to get some ideas, and they might have a little bit more improvement. But then here comes that. But what if you never figure it out? Or what if people don't like you? And so we just hook to those negative stories. Those are so easy to attach meaning to. But why, when we have so many other thoughts and feelings going through our heads? So that's just something I think is really interesting. So if you notice that you are beating yourself up or having negative self-talk, a lot of times somebody will tell you, well, just tell yourself that you're going to just tell yourself you're awesome, or tell yourself that everybody loves you. And so if you don't believe that, though, that's what I'm saying. Then you can say, okay, I guess I'll tell myself that. But if you don't even believe that, then you can even feel like, man, I'm not even good at trying to tell myself positive things. So the real way, in my opinion, to start to raise what I say your emotional baseline is first of all, we got a little self-care. I know you and I talked about this before. Self-care is not selfish. It doesn't mean you have to get a mani-pedi or run a marathon. But if you just start just doing things for yourself, and it can be dreaming, it can be coloring, it can be going on walks, it can be reading, it can be anything that is there to bump up your emotional baseline a little bit. But ultimately what we're trying to do is find out what matters to you. And I don't want that to sound cliche, but I think so often people are just doing things that they think that they're supposed to, those socially compliant goals. So if somebody says, okay, what do I need to do to feel better? They're asking other people what I should do. What do you think I should do to make me feel better? Does that make sense? And so that's fair, but then if I'm just going to say, okay, I guess I'll do that, but it's not something that really resonates with me, or it's something that I want to do, then I'm most likely not going to be pouring a lot of passion or energy into that. And so then I'll say, man, see, that didn't work either. So I really like when somebody can tap into what are things that they really want to do. So if we let's go back into the time machine. What were things that you thought you were supposed to do versus things that you actually... Go to college. That's a good one, right? Okay, and how did that go, Sid?
Very, very, very bad. Yeah. And for the person in Instagram, you could just send your question in the chat. I have it right here, so I can just see it. Okay.
But I like this concept, though, of I think so often when we're asking somebody else what they think that we should do to make us happy, I understand. Like, we need we aren't even sure what to do ourselves. But then if somebody says, well, I think, yeah, you should go to college and study and get a degree. But if you don't have any interest in going to college, then that's a good example of, okay, I guess I will, but I'm going to go, and I really don't want to, and I don't really like it. And so then am I going to be as excited about it?
Yeah. I see what you're saying. It's like, no, like you're the only person that would know what would make you happy.
Yeah.
And it's different for everyone.
I always look back, and you can tell me that you can say drop this old man if you want to, but you brought to us back in the high school days that you wanted to do tumbling. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty bold that you did, because that wasn't something that you had done before. You didn't grow up doing gymnastics or anything. So what got you to finally say that you wanted to do that?
I don't remember that at all. I don't remember a lot.
But I mean, then that led to you guys you won state championship in the stunt, that sport,
mm-hmm.
and then you cheered and all that sort of thing. And those weren't things that I thought you wanted to do. So if you were to have asked me, what should I do to make myself feel better, I was going to probably go with things that I like. You should run more, or I don't know, write, or things like that. And then if you were trying to if you don't want to disappoint me, and then you do those things, then would you have been happy?
No, and I wasn't when I did that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, I mean, no, you did hurdles. Did you like hurdles when you were doing those?
Yeah, that was fun.
You did like those. Okay.
Okay. Do you want me to do another question?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I felt like I was just rambling on that one, but I think it's such an important point. Just write down, jot down, and you can Google this: acceptance and commitment therapy and socially compliant goals. Because often we do things because we think we're supposed to, and then if we do, our motivation for them is weak and ineffective, because it really isn't what it does. It goes against who we are, trying to become who we are. So you have to have the courage to figure out the things that you want to do, And people around you will say, I don't think that's a good idea. But just break that down. I want to do this. And someone else is saying, I don't think that's a good idea for you. But they're them, you're you. So start trying to do the things that you want to do. Okay, next question.
What's one piece of advice you'd give someone just starting therapy?
Oh, going to therapy or becoming a therapist? Are we assuming maybe that's going to therapy?
I think going to therapy.
Okay, that's a great question, and stay tuned. We've got a couple of things that are probably, I don't know, a month or two away that we're gonna really do a deep dive into what therapy can look like. Because this is gonna sound cliched, but it's so true. So the one piece of advice is first of all, you really do need to feel like you feel connected to your therapist. There's some cool research around that therapeutic rapport is so important, because if you really don't feel comfortable, and you may not feel comfortable right away going in and telling somebody your life story and your hopes and dreams, but if you can build a relationship where you feel safe with that therapist, then the best thing you can do is to trust that they know the things that you don't know. And so the quicker that you can open up about things, the more they can help you. And a good therapist that's been doing it for a while, we have a good idea when somebody's maybe holding back, and I know that I can't pull that out of somebody, but boy, when somebody comes in and they just say, okay, I just need help, and so I'm going to just emotionally vomit and I'm going to unload, that is a gift you're giving your therapist. I always make a joke and say, you just saved yourself, I don't know, however much money, how many sessions, the more that you can open up quickly. Do you think that would be hard to do, though?
Yeah, it feels invasive.
It feels invasive? That's a good
Why
word.
do you want to know all of this about me?
Which is really funny, because sometimes people will come into therapy, and that is, they when they felt good, and this is like a funny concept too, when they set up the appointment, they get a little dopamine dump, they're like, oh man, I can't wait, and then as it gets closer, I mean, I just had a person a couple of weeks ago that had reached out to me, they listened to my podcast, they're here in Arizona, they thought that the universe lined up so that they could come see me, and 2 days before, then they just said, actually, I don't think I'm ready. And I told them that I appreciated that, but I think that happens more often than not. Okay, what else?
What's your recommendation dealing with a narcissistic mother?
Ooh. I guess I can just kind of take a guess, you know. Okay. Okay. Where do we start with this? Here's what's difficult is if one has a narcissistic mom, more than likely you have to look at what has been modeled for you, and often a narcissistic mom is going to lead to more of an anxiously attached kid, because if you are not being seen, if you're not being validated as a kid, more than likely you're going to want to perform in order to try to get validation or get the attention. And the unfortunate part about if we're one full narcissistic mom is that she lacks her own sense of self. So when you bring something up, then you are providing her with what I call an attack surface for her to then be able to let you know that either that isn't important, or she knows more about that than you do, or she did it better than you did. And I can think of this one story that this is funny. It was a guy that was telling me about his, when he was in high school, he was a really good athlete, he played basketball, he went to this big school, he ran track, cross country, and at the time, I think he was 16 or 17, he said he was in phenomenal shape, and his mom came out and said, oh, I could have taken you in a basketball game when I was your age. And he just said, really, Mom? And this kid, he was telling me that he could almost dunk a basketball, and she was like, oh, I could do that. And to this day, he's in his 40s or 50s now, and he just remembers that so well, where since it was his idea and he was looking for some validation, he really wanted his mom to say, well done. But what did she say? Oh, I could do that. I was better at that than you. Or he told me that when he was taking a class, a foreign language, of course, then she led on that, when I took my foreign language class, my professor asked me if I was a native speaker, So
are narcissists looking for validation, or are they so over that, they don't even need that? They just need to control the situation.
Yeah, and the way that and it's funny because and that's why I say that a narcissist, and I'm going overboard with this, but they don't know that they exist until they interact with another human. So when you go up and you want to have this conversation with them, it's as if they think, oh, okay, now here's some air so I can breathe. So you mention whatever you're going to, and then they know how to then take that one-up position, how to make you feel less than. And what's really interesting is the one-up position, normally we think of that as someone that's saying they're better than you, but also when somebody jumps into the victim status, that's also a way to take the one-up position, because if they go victim, if you're saying, man, we did this really fun thing, let's say we went to Disneyland, it was so great, if all of a sudden the narcissistic mom says, oh man, I wish I could have gone to Disneyland, now it just dampens your mood. You're not going to talk about your trip, and you're going to say, oh man, tell me more. Why weren't you able to go? And then here comes a story, and you now have to comfort them. So they took it right back around on them. So it's always taking that one-up position, control, and that's the part where, again, they don't really know exactly who they are. They think they do, but they need you to be their emotional support animal in that sense.
Okay. Is it narcissistic to overthink about someone thinking about you?
Ooh, what do you think?
No.
Okay.
I don't think okay, tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think a narcissist even really thinks about that because they just think that they're so great. Yeah. Of course they think I'm great too.
Yeah.
But then, for me, I have anxiety, so I used to overthink about that constantly.
Yeah.
I had some weird idea in my head that everyone was thinking about me all the time because they didn't like me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good way to put that.
And the truth is, no one's thinking about you, but it's not in a bad way.
No. And that's a funny part to say that, because I like the question a lot. Because it's definitely not narcissistic. The fact that you're even curious about it means you are not a narcissist. I always say on the Waking Up to Narcissism podcast, if you are asking yourself if you are narcissistic, you are not, because you're curious about it, and you're here on a podcast or you're here on a live and you're asking questions about it. You're not the narcissist. But tell me what you think about this. Let's create a little bit of content right here, because how do you feel about the word selfish? What does that bring up for you? What does it feel like?
I don't know, it can be a good thing and a bad thing.
Okay.
I think you should always put yourself first.
Yeah.
But if it's not good to be, it's not good to do that, at the demise of other people. Didn't use that word, right?
I think it was a good one. I think it was pretty good. Yeah. The reason I bring that up is, and this could just be a me thing, but if what I think I'm understanding in that question is, if the person is saying that they are spending a lot of time wondering or worrying about what the other person is thinking about them, that is maybe it's not. I mean, it's not narcissistic, but it is coming from a place of anxiety. The reason I use selfish is so often what that will lead to is, well, I didn't want to do this thing because I didn't want them to think that I was, I can't think of a great example right now, but that's the part where I'm saying, well, what if they're not actually thinking about you? Mm-hmm. And so you just need to be and do, and that can start to look like. To a lot of the people that I work with, I call them pathologically kind, where they're kind almost to their detriment at times, because people will take advantage of them. But there's also a version of that where you are saying, okay, I didn't want to go do this thing because I didn't want this person to think this, and I didn't want them to worry about. And so that's the one where it's like, man, I must feel like I have a lot of power, that I can control all these other people's feelings and emotions, if that makes sense. Mm. Yeah, okay. What else?
Working on my codependency, suggestions on how to detach when I'm concerned about my partner's interactions with my younger children.
Ooh. This is the part where it's so hard to just, I want more.
I would, if you have more details, I would assume the interactions are negative.
Right, yeah. This is hard. Yeah, and I wonder if does it say, are they in the relationship, they're not divorced, codependency?
This is their partner, so I would assume they're in a relationship.
Okay, so yeah, the big question is, what are those things that they're seeing that they are concerned about? Because do they feel, well, no, I appreciate you acknowledging the codependency, because that would infer to me that you probably don't feel like you can bring something up, right? Yeah. And so now, boy, it took us a little bit, but now let's enter the world of differentiation, where the concept of being differentiated is, I want to maintain a connection with this person while holding on to my own self, while honoring my own autonomy. So if you are seeing something in your partner and you don't like the way that they're maybe parenting your kids, then it brings up feelings and emotions. So what do you do with those? If you stuff those down, they're most likely going to come out in other ways, maybe some passive aggressive comments or a withdrawal. But this is where learning to have the courage to be able to express yourself, and being able to calm your own anxiety, soothe your own self, be grounded in your response, and then okay, let me say this. I am a big fan of being curious about the person's experience. So instead of saying to your spouse, hey, I don't like the way you do that, I don't know, how would that feel to you if somebody was like, it's on the attack, I want to say?
I'm very defensive.
Right.
So I feel like before even processing it, I'd probably like put my guards up.
I think so. Yeah, and that's it. No, that's exactly where I was going with that, because I think when somebody does do that, it's our natural. It's a defense mechanism. You know, we'll shoot back well, I don't like the way you do that. You know, the tit for tat or that sort of thing. So I would suggest maybe going into that saying, hey, tell me about what you're doing there, or help me understand what you were doing at bath time. Or, hey, I don't know, I saw you slam the door coming out of the kids' room when we normally read a book. Tell me tell me what was happening. But I know that often, and this is where you hear about this stuff, like Mama Bear wants to say, you will not slam that door, and then, the person's going to be defensive. And I'm not saying that doing this, your husband's going to say, oh, let me take you on my train of thought. I was very frustrated. I'm owning my own emotions. I mean, because if that doesn't happen, or I guess it could, but probably not if she's working on her codependency.
Yeah.
But this is where, over time, she needs to do the thing that she feels is right for her, and it can be outcome independent, even if he's still not being very nice about it. But having the courage to be able to express yourself, I think, is key. Yeah. Have you had, you've had some situations where you've had to deal with that discomfort and express yourself?
Recently, yeah. I was literally sitting right here when I did it. I just sent a scary text.
You did? How was that?
It was, I was weirded out by how much it was bothering me. And I think, so I can kind of relate to that question in the sense of, like, it's hard to confront someone that you care about.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't want to hurt their feelings. And then there's, like you always say, like, you cannot be dependent on the outcome at all.
Yeah, that's
Because
tough.
if I was dependent on the outcome, I wouldn't have sent that text, because I didn't think they were going to respond well.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm not sending it for them, I'm sending it for me.
You. Oh, man.
Like,
Yeah.
setting my boundaries.
Yeah. So
I think that is important.
Preach that. So and it almost goes back to what that person was saying earlier about, in an odd way, it's a good way. I'm giving that person a chance to respond. So I have to own my projection. If I'm projecting onto that person that they won't handle it well, even though I might be, let's say, 95% sure that they're not going to handle it well, that's still I got to own that. That's a me thing. I am projecting that if I say this, they will not handle it well. Again, even if I'm pretty confident they won't, in a sense, if I'm going to express myself, there is a chance that you may find that person responds well. If they don't respond well, that is a them issue. But you did what was best for you. Now, the unfortunate part is the more that person is on the emotionally immature side, the more they will react immaturely, which can literally be like a little kid in a grown-up body that is throwing a fit, or hurling insults. Or I often work with people that then they do the silent treatment for a few days with their adult human spouse. That very mature. Sarcasm. Okay.
Working on. Oh, I just read that one. Wait, I had one that I picked that I was gonna read next.
Okay.
Where did it go? Oh, feeling disconnected from my partner. He doesn't believe in therapy. I've talked about it 7 to 8 times.
Okay. Okay. The magic number is 9. Okay. It is funny though. I remember before I became a therapist, my undergraduate degree was in mass communications with an emphasis in public relations, and you would talk about the advertising message, and I probably have made this up at this point, but you have to hear something 9 times. But when somebody's being immature, it's like the more times you tell them, the more they dig in their heels, and that's the more that they're not going to do it. And I think we had an Am I Overreacting about this last Sunday, where the person no, that was a little different, because the boyfriend was saying, hey, I've taken a few psychology classes. You don't need to go to therapy. Remember that? But in this scenario, though, man, I just want to tell you, if you want to go to therapy, please go to therapy. And if he doesn't want you to go to therapy, bless his heart, but that is a him thing.
And it's more of a reason for you to need to go to
really
therapy,
is.
because I'm not going to say it's a toxic relationship immediately, but it probably is.
I mean, because what is he afraid of?
It's like self-confronting.
Yep, and that, yeah.
And someone who's afraid of that is not growing emotionally at all.
Yeah, they're afraid.
They're halted
at
wherever they stopped as a literal child at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny when you say that. Sometimes I just picture a little kid just saying, I don't want to. They just do this, and so please go. Here's what's difficult is, and this is where, okay, I want your honest opinion on this, okay? The therapist in me says that you are making your emotional bid. You're basically like putting your heart out there and saying, I want to go to therapy. And I don't know if she's saying I want us to, but I want to go. And if he's saying I don't think it's a good idea, first step, well, tell me why. Help me understand. because this is a concept that a guy named David Schnarch, I really love his work, calls constructing your crucible. And what that means is you're in gridlock right now. You want to go to therapy, and he does not want you to go to therapy. Here's where you take your unresolved personal issue out of that gridlock situation, and you are confronting it as an act of integrity. So as an integrity means this is what is important to me, and what I love about this is I could go back to this day in and day out. I want to go to therapy, and if he says, well, I don't think you should, tell me more. Well, I don't know, you're going to be mean, or if you're taking time away from me, or so tell me if this makes sense. So he'll have a million excuses as to why he thinks you shouldn't go to therapy, but you will keep coming back to, I want to go. So you just learned from this gridlock situation that is important to you, and his responses are completely immature. He's just saying those to try to get out of his own discomfort. But if he had like a real solid reason, and you could communicate about it, and he said, oh, I don't know, my whole family was destroyed by a therapist or something, then it's like, oh wow, okay, I did not know that. Now we should probably go to therapy to talk about that, right? But go. And I guess what I'm doing is, I do not know you. I'm just, this is not therapeutic advice. This is just a guy answering questions. But I would say at that point, if you want to go, I give you permission. I release you from needing to tell him you were going to therapy. Now, ideally, you are trying. You've tried 7 or 8 times, but at this point, he is now controlling your mental health and your desire to do what is best for you. And at the end of the day, everything is a you thing, and you need to do what is best for you. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
This is interesting. A psychologist on TikTok says you're not responsible for other people's feelings. That seems a little off.
So you're actually not, right? Yeah. But I love your question, because we certainly feel that we are responsible for other people's feelings and emotions. But this is where, if we just break it down to its core level, if I say something, and let's say you say, oh, that makes me feel angry. And then I say, oh, I'm sorry, tell me how I can say it different. That just goes against who I am. And now I'm telling you to tell me how I should act or how I should feel. So we hand our power over to other people too often, in my opinion. Now, if they say, I don't like the way you said that, well, I need to know that I'm okay, because that's the way I said it. But tell me what you don't like about it. And this is where I want to say, I love trying to help people get to, and I've been trying to break it down almost with numbers again. Let's say right now you maybe have a 30% solid sense of self. That means you're leaving 70% open for everybody else to tell you how to feel and what to do and what to think. And so I would imagine you're going to be chasing all of these different thoughts and opinions, and still looking for validation, looking for ways that you can get people to tell you that you're okay. We want to eventually get you to a point where, let's say you're at 80 or 90% solid sense of self. I do know who I am, and I'm okay with that, but I'm leaving 10 to 20% open. I'm flexible with that. So if I say something and somebody says, that makes me mad, then I'm saying, okay, well, I'm good, but tell me why that makes you mad. Because that is a you thing, but I want to be the best version of me. So if I'm saying things that are inappropriate or slurs or any of that sort of thing, then I do want to know, because I would love to be able to self-confront. I would love to be able to deal with my own discomfort, or learn things I don't know that I don't know. But I can't just keep giving away my power to anybody that's telling me that they don't like what I said, or it makes them feel a certain way. But what do you think about that, though?
I tuned out.
Did you?
I was just nodding to make it look like I was.
You did a great job. I really think you did. Yeah.
I mastered that from college.
You can go to college soon.
High school.
Okay. But I don't know, if anybody has more questions about that, I would love for you to ask those, because I like your question. It's so relevant. I heard this concept, and I can't remember where I heard it, but it was really interesting, because if somebody basically they're diffusing their anxiety or their discomfort or their anger right there into the relationship, and then what you do is you take it, and you're the one that's now going to metabolize it. You just took that from them, and now I have to figure out what I can do to make them feel better. And that's why I say that if that's a them thing, then I'm just going to take shots in the dark. I'm going to try to say something better. I'm going to try to do it a certain way, a different tone, and I'm trying to get them to go, well done, you did good. Now I feel better, you know? Mm-hmm. So we're just handing too much of our power away to people. Again, I want people to tell me how they feel, because I will self-reflect, but ultimately I get to be the final one to say if that's something that I think is important for me to work on or not. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or are you just nodding for fun?
Yeah. But I'm paying attention now.
Yeah, you're really good at that, though.
Our 17-year-old son has been dating the same girl for over a year. As a family, we have mixed feelings about her. We don't feel she's a good fit, so find it hard to be positive. Any suggestions?
I have all the suggestions, and it goes to your high school relationship.
Is that how you felt?
Okay, this is fun. This
Valid.
Okay, thank you, person asking the question. So, I don't know, should we talk about that?
Yeah.
That'd be fun. So, tell us, take us on your train of thought. When you were 17, were you in a relationship?
Mm-hmm.
And how did you feel?
Like I was dating an idiot. Just kidding. No, I was like obsessed with him, like attached to him.
Yeah.
And I didn't even like, no offense, but like I didn't even really like that much about his personality, but I think I at that point needed the validation so much.
Dad issues, and I'm her dad.
And
my bad.
And because I was Mormon or like coming out of Mormonism at that time, in my head I was all set up for like, I have to marry this guy, like this guy's literally gonna have my children. It's like, oh my gosh, I was like 12. Emotionally I was like 9.
Sure.
Like it's just
Sid.
And it's like I don't know, it's really hard to get through a kid's brain though, and I would be scared that like if you say something that they would like want to stay with them more.
Okay, so that honestly, and this is kind of fun that we haven't really talked through this before. So I was using every therapy skill that I had in the world, and your mom was amazing as well, and so we embraced him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, what was that like? We took him on vacations with us. We did all those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then was that helpful for you at the time? Like if we would have said no and been angry, what can you imagine? Yeah, that would have been.
I can't say what I would have done. Like me now would like to believe that I would have listened, but I probably wouldn't have, because I was so immature at that time.
Yeah.
And I was very much in my era of like, whatever my parents tell me to do, I don't want to do.
That, and we felt that, we did. And so I think that why I love this question, and thank you for talking about this, is, because it was just part of your experience, it was part of ours. I remember Mom and I a couple times where things would happen and we would think, she needs to get out of that relationship. But then we would double down on trying to support you, and even trying to get to know him better, because we felt like eventually there would come a time where you would have had enough, and then you could come to us and tell us, rather than feel like you couldn't.
It is difficult though, because that guy literally cheated on me and I stayed with him.
Mm-hmm.
So it is like and it took me like so many years to get over him.
But when you finally came to Mom and I, that's when I just felt so like, okay, we played the long game and it worked, because you were able to come to us and say, I can't believe this, and he did this, and we were just like, we were behind the scenes, we were like high-fiving, you know.
That's just such a hard situation though.
Yeah. It is.
It's like, if that guy would have proposed to me, I would have married him. Like, what about that?
Well, and honestly, I talk to people in my practice, and they say, but we're going to put our foot down and put a stop to it. And, I mean, I don't want to just say, hey, good luck with that, because I'm sure there are situations where that works. And I've had parents before say, I'm willing to, in essence, like, risk my relationship with my daughter.
Don't do that.
I know, and that's that's where it's like, I don't know, it's hard, because I just feel like in that situation, I'm glad the way that we handled it, and I'm grateful that then, when you kind of finally said, I can't do this, then you came to us, and that blew my mind at the time, and then we were just saying, okay, how can we support you? But we just given him a PlayStation 5. Like, if you could have figured that out a little sooner, that would have saved me like $500.
I knew the code to his house. I wanted to go in there and pee on it, but...
Well, that wouldn't have actually helped either. I would still have been out the $500. Yeah, that's fair. But thank you for the question. If you have follow-up, please ask.
Okay. My partner of 20 years left me saying we're getting divorced and not talking about it.
Wow.
The worst is he tried to take my kids, and now I'm living in fear that he will take them.
That's a tough place to be. I am so sorry. I deal with a lot of this in my practice. And especially when somebody feels blindsided, that's a real difficult place to be, because that person was building up whatever it is, the resentment, creating their story, a narrative and then they never brought that to you. And so, the more emotionally mature thing to do is, if you're struggling in your relationship, to be able to bring that to your partner, go to therapy, at least try to work things out. Because it really, in the grand scheme of things, it's what do we do with our discomfort? And so he was unwilling to confront his discomfort, and most likely, and I don't know the person, but most likely getting his validation elsewhere, until then finally he's said, okay, this is my person. I can't do this anymore in my marriage, and then just hits you with a bombshell there. And so the problem really is that this is where I hope that you've been able to talk to an attorney. I hope that you know your rights. So I work a lot in the world of narcissism and emotionally immature people, and I'm going to go with when the guy is the more emotionally immature narcissistic person, there are a lot of threats that get thrown out. And what I find so fascinating is a guy will say things like, I'll take the kids, I'll tell everybody you're crazy, I'll show them a video of you yelling, I'll do this, as if that's going to be brought into court. And the judge is like, well, let me see that iPhone video and then I'll rule in. But you have certain rights. In most states it's 50-50 with the kids, unless there's a restraining order or a police report. And so a lot of times just a guy will make threats. And so do everything you can. Go have a free consultation with an attorney, or get on ChatGPT, and just start to understand what is going on, and know that his threats are most likely idle threats to try to keep you dysregulated so he can still get away and do the things that he wants to do, because he still doesn't want to self-confront or deal with the fact that he just threw this at you and blindsided you. And you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyone with sense would, hopefully if it gets, or hopefully it doesn't, but if it got to the point of him trying to take your kids, I think he would show his true colors.
Yeah.
And hopefully they would see who's in the right and who's in the wrong. If he sounds like he's being very emotionally immature and kind of narcissistic, so that will show in his actions.
It will, and this is hard for me to say, because this is where this is not therapy advice right now, but I will just say that what I see the most is when somebody's in that situation where they've never been able to bring those things up, the difficulties in their relationship, or if they've done so, they've done it in a real immature way, and now they're doing this. What they're trying to do is push a button to get you to react again, so they don't have to take ownership of the fact that they're being a complete, I don't want to get shadow banned or anything, donkey.
Sure.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they want you to react. And so this is where the more you can learn about what your rights are, and just know you're okay. You're a good mom, and this isn't fair. And so these idle threats, I guess where I was going with that, but this is again not legal advice or anything, but I don't often see the immature narcissistic person really follow through on the things about taking the kids, or because then they have to actually deal with the kids. And
we have more from her,
okay,
specifically.
Good. Okay.
7 weeks of IOP DBT helps my perspective, but not my rational fears.
Yeah.
I tried to go to the hospital 3 weeks before he sprung it on me. I don't know what I didn't know. Okay, how to parent 2 neurodiverse kids with, this is a new question from her though, with a 0 communication X that may have undiagnosed autism. If I seem desperate, yes, I am in therapy, but I want it now.
Oh yeah, and I appreciate the context, and I do feel for you, because I think especially after somebody drops a bombshell like that, there's just so much uncertainty, and we talk about this often, that we crave certainty. We need to know. That will calm our anxiety down. If I can know what the next steps are, if I know how things are going to play out. So get as much help as you can. I know that sounds so cliched. You can even Google, anybody can Google low-cost therapy near me, and you can get kids into therapy. You can be there, but that at least has you start to feel like I'm doing something. Because I would imagine right now it just feels like your whole life has been turned upside down, and where do I look first? I mean, and I appreciate you asking the questions now. What did you say about how do I handle the kids, or what was that? Because I had a thought here.
How to parent 2 neurodiverse kids with a 0 communication X that may have undiagnosed autism.
Oh, that he may have undiagnosed autism. I would imagine, yeah. So, and the kids are the neurodivergent kids. And this is where I'm going to have to say, I think give me 10 years ago, I would have tried to sound smart about everything, but I don't know a lot about kid therapy. I have a good friend of mine, Jamie Miller, coming on my podcast soon, who can talk about that. But, there's a lady that I had on my podcast, Jody Carlton. I know she deals a lot with neurodivergent kids, spouses. So I would recommend looking her up. I know she has a lot of good content about that as well. But I would hate to just throw some advice out there that isn't very solid. I will say that by having a 0 communication partner, in the long run, and I know it's not that way now, but that can actually be a benefit, because you don't have to parent him while you're also parenting the kids.
Yeah.
And good for you to go to DBT. Like that's really impressive. And so just know that, I mean, you're 7 weeks in, 8 weeks in, the changing your mental health is the long game. It takes quite a while to change what I call it. It's your implicit memory, or what it feels like to be you, and it's based on your slow residue of your lived experience. You're in the middle of it right now. You're in the messy middle, or even just kind of the real difficult beginning. And so I know there's so much that you don't know that you don't know. When you feel that way, your anxiety spikes, your cortisol levels raise, your adrenaline is flowing through your body. And so if there's any way that you can have some self-care, a bubble bath, get a massage, pet a dog, go on a walk, do guided meditations, find some free anything, but I promise that it will feel like this is why I don't have time to do this, but you have to do some self-care. And this is where I call it your emotional baseline. So everything's hitting you right here. And when you were feeling, you didn't know that he was about to leave, your emotional baseline was maybe higher, and you're able to react to things with a high baseline. But then you get hit with the punch of, okay, he's leaving and he's not communicating, and you got your kids, and you're overwhelmed. So your emotional baseline is low, but those decisions are still coming at you from here. So we got to get your baseline up, and a lot of that is going to seem like things that are not going to be really relevant, but it's self-care. And here's where I'll throw the one plug in. If you're not already on a medication, I would maybe talk to a doctor, because sometimes what can really bump your emotional baseline up to a place where you can reach the tools you need might be an anti-anxiety medication, maybe an antidepressant for now, because we got to get you to a place where you can access the tools. I feel for you right now. Reach out to friends. I think a lot of times we'll do the yeah but, and we'll say yeah but I don't want to bother them, and that's just your brain's way of saying that's scary. So yeah, kind of get out of your comfort zone. You might have to reach out for help.
That was good.
Did you actually pay attention?
Very happy. Yes.
Well done, Sid. Okay.
How can a borderline stop attracting narcissists?
Oh boy. I don't know how, like, a funny joke of that. Do they know they're borderline though? Is that what they're saying?
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Okay, can I just jump right into humor? So forgive me. But I mean, so borderline, histrionic, antisocial narcissism. They all walk into a bar. That's not what I was going to say that one. That's like a joke. But they're all in the same personality disorder cluster, so they're all kind of good friends. They're all based, in my opinion, on some really, really deep childhood wounds, abandonment, attachment wounds, gaslighting. It's this childhood defense mechanism that when you never saw healthy relationships modeled, you didn't see people take ownership of things. If you felt like you were going to get in trouble, then you thought, man, my parents are literally going to boot me out of the house as a 5-year-old, so I didn't do it. And you get really good at just holding your ground. So all in that personality disorder cluster, sometimes I call it like narcissist on narcissist crime. And so how do I stop attracting the narcissist? The fact you're aware of that is wonderful. And
True.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that right there, the person that we were talking about before talked about DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy. That's the most effective type of therapy, and really it's for a lot of people that have borderline personality disorder. Not saying the person before had borderline personality disorder, but it's the treatment that has been said to be pretty effective for borderline personality disorder. So what I would love to suggest you do right now is work on you. If you can, and this is hard though, because a lot of times, I mean, people that are used to feeling like they matter by getting validation from others, and here I am saying, okay, if you can put that on hold a bit, go do some DBT therapy. That would be ideal. But as a real live practicing therapist, a lot of people they don't have the patience, the self-love in that sense to be able to spend time just on their self. So they're still finding themselves wanting to go on the dating apps and wanting that dopamine dump of validation. Talk about that, dating apps for a second.
I haven't been on those in a long time.
Because is that just a dopamine hit?
Yeah, and it's like, even if you're not using it for that, most of the people on there seem like they are.
Yeah. Okay.
You know?
Like, would you ever get on there and it's like, oh, this person's attractive or whatever, and you're like, oh, they're interested in me. Like, would that make you feel better?
Yes, I was an idiot. I used to literally use it as a game, literally just like a game for fun. Like, I didn't even have an intention on hate. See, I'm the person that I hate now.
Now.
Not anymore.
You're in such a good place now, though.
But
just preach this. Like, how did you get over that?
I had to find myself. I had no self-worth at all. And I didn't even know who I was, and I had no confidence. and I thought that the only way that I could feel good about myself was if a guy told it to me.
Yeah.
And like finally, like I actually just feel good about myself, and now I don't even want to date.
Which is really fascinating, because I think that that's it really is a more mature view, because it's I often say when people get out of relationships, they get through a divorce, and this is going to sound rough for just a second, but I often say that you have to accept the fact that you may never be in another relationship again. And what I mean by that is because if you accept the fact, then you're not continually looking for ways to try and get in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But because once you realize I am okay, and now I'm just doing and being, I'm going about my business, then I start interacting with people, and then it repels the clingy. It repels, confidence is like narcissistic repellent, because they need somebody that has a lower sense of self, so that they can come in and say, oh, here's who you are. And really? That's who you think I am? But if you have a solid sense of self and they're saying, this is who I think you are, I'm like, okay, I wasn't asking. Like, I'm good. And that's narcissist repellent. Is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like even if you are accidentally attracting narcissists, once you have like a solid sense of self-confidence and stuff, then once you recognize that they're a narcissist, leave them.
Absolutely.
Like no matter how, I don't know if I should say no matter how like in love you are, but like you really just have to put yourself first, and if someone's hurting you, like don't be in a relationship with them. Like you deserve so much better than that.
And I know it's not that easy, because this is the beginnings of a trauma bond. It starts with a pathologically kind person and an emotionally mature narcissistic person, and that pathologically kind person is going to continue to give them the benefit of the doubt, even though that narcissist they're shifty, Sid. They change. They'll tell you one thing one day, and then they'll tell you something else, and when you say, wait, didn't you say this? And I didn't say that. And here comes the gaslighting, and now you start to think, I'm crazy. All of a sudden now I'm apologizing. I'm so sorry, I thought that you did. And so then it starts to cause you to question yourself, where the narcissist is just, they're good. They're just continuing to just move forward. Yeah, is there more? I could keep going on about that for days.
Yeah, I have some right here.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for the questions. There's a ton, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
Does a narc turn things around, and when you criticize them, they say you do it too?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm trying to come up with...
Deflection, right?
Yeah. It's a projection, deflection. I call it parroting.
Oh, projection.
Yeah, and so it's really interesting. That one, when you watch it in real time in an office, when I've got a couple in there, and let's say that I've got my beloved 4 pillars of a connected conversation. So we're trying to be able to have a person say, I really feel like you aren't there for me. And they're holding their heart out. They're saying, I'm going to be really vulnerable, and I'm offering this emotional bid. And instead of the person that has some emotional maturity, maybe they just don't know what they don't know, that person is going to say, oh man, I am so sorry. Like, tell me about that. What's that like? The narcissist is like, well, you're not there for me either. So what am I supposed to do? And then quickly now you're on the defense. And you watch that happen in real time, and they're just so good at it. That's why, again, that gaslighting is it's a childhood defensive mechanism, and it is just reactive, and it's impulsive. When I'm working with a guy who's trying to become more emotionally, a guy or a girl, if they're emotionally immature and they're trying to become more mature, you're continually trying to work on responding versus reacting, because the reacting is just impulsively, and you have to be able to build in that pause, to be able to take a moment and say, man, check that out. I was about to say, you do it too, but I need to sit with this discomfort, and I need to hear you. And I want to make the joke about, and then all of a sudden my door opens up and a unicorn rushes in with a leprechaun. He's got a pot of gold, because the narcissist is like, I think I want to change. Yeah. I don't know if I answered the question or not.
Okay, I think you did.
Okay.
What would be your top 5 signs you're a narcissist?
That's a good one. I should probably have those.
Anything
there's just,
that comes to your head?
Well, yeah, a lot of things that, there's just a complete lack of being able to sit with any criticism, because, criticism is, you are telling them they're wrong. And if you look in the world of narcissists, it's black or white thinking. It's all or nothing thinking. So if you have an opinion that differs from who they think that they are or what they think they're doing, then they need to just burn you down to the ground, because that means you are telling them that they are bad and you think that you are good. It just goes back into that all or nothing, black or white. So that can be really difficult. So they are unable to sit with any kind of criticism. Narcissists also lack what's called whole object relations, and then this concept of object constancy. Let me read this from, this is one of my favorite articles. It's called The Truth About Narcissistic Personality Disorder. And it is, hang on, here we go.
I think another thing would be that they don't apologize either.
They don't.
Right?
Yeah, and it's the crazy part about that too is people will just, if you have not been around a narcissistic person, you will most likely think, well, I mean, I'm sure they do, but
It's so weird.
It's weird.
They, like,
They
literally
can't.
don't.
They
like,
can't.
And in my head, I'm like, if you're so manipulative, I'm surprised they're not manipulating you by saying sorry, just to, like, get you to shut up or something.
It's
but it's like
funny.
they seriously cannot confront
yeah,
that.
they can't. And that's it's funny you say that because I think that often too. Sometimes I'll sit there and I'll think, hey, you have this complete false sense of self. I'm thinking this about the narcissist. So one moment you're saying, no, this is the most important thing in the world to me, and then an hour later you circle back around to like, I don't care about that thing. So that one's like a layup. But then I often think, yeah, they can't even fake the apology. The narcissistic apology is so blatant, where it's like, okay, I mean, I guess I'm sorry, but this is kind of awkward because I wouldn't even be saying this if you hadn't have done the thing you did. And as a matter of fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I think you owe me an apology. And so there's the narcissistic version of the apology. But this there's a psychologist named Eleanor Greenberg, and she has an article in Psychology Today that I really like, and she says this. She says, okay, narcissistic personality disorder is the name of a series of coping strategies that began as an adaptation to a childhood family situation that left the person with unstable self-esteem, the ability to regulate their self-esteem without external validation, so they need somebody else to interact with, and then low empathy, so like we were talking about. And she said that they lack whole object relations and object constancy. Now, what does that mean? Whole object relations is the capacity to see oneself and others in a stable and integrated way that acknowledges both the person's good and bad qualities. And then object constancy is the ability to maintain a positive connection to somebody that you like, even if you're angry or hurt or frustrated. So what that means is that when the narcissist, that without these two things, whole object relations and object constancy, people see themselves, the narcissist sees you in one of two ways. Either you are special and unique, and you are someone that then they want to hang around because you make them feel better about themselves, or then they see that you are defective or worthless or like a piece of garbage. So they can't hold on to a good opinion about somebody if then they think that person isn't just adores them or praises them all the time. So if you bring up anything that they disagree with, now all of a sudden you go from high status to low status. You went from you are the most amazing person in the world to you are a piece of garbage. And on the Waking Up to Narcissism podcast, I did a podcast about, I called it emotional whiplash, because if somebody's in that relationship, 1 minute the narcissist is telling them, you're the only person I've ever loved, and I love everything about you, and you are just the best. And then it can be an hour later, and they are just breaking you down. And that's not okay. But people that are in those relationships assume that, well, I guess everybody kind of does that. Or maybe I wasn't acting very nice. And then the other part here that I wanted to read is that they seesaw back and forth between these two. So when they feel good about you, or more accurately, you make them feel good about themselves, you're special. Then you do something that they don't like, and that can be as little as saying no to something or having a different opinion, and then suddenly you are all bad and you're worthless. And then later you might do something that they like, and now they're happy again. And this is why they can just destroy you emotionally, and then 5 minutes later say, where are we going for dinner? Because now they're hungry. So, well, I thought we were going for dinner. And you're destroyed trying to pick yourself up off the floor emotionally. And now they even say, well, I said like, well, I'm good. This is you now. You're the one that's having the problem. Yeah.
Okay, this one.
Okay.
My ex wanted me to unfollow, I'm guessing this is while they were dating, wanted me to unfollow everyone I dated and made me delete all flirty comments on my photos. Is that bad?
I want to go to you first, because I have thoughts on this, but this is where sometimes I think, am I an old man in my theories about this? I mean, I am, but what do you think?
I do think that's bad.
To
make you delete all the flirty comments and unfollow everyone you dated.
I agree.
Is that really what you were going to say?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's like that was part of your life. That's who you were. Accept it. I mean, if you're in a relationship now and somebody has such a hard time with your past relationships, that's their insecurity.
It's insecurity, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, it drives me nuts.
And it's controlling. And maybe that one action isn't necessarily like horrible, right? But it will lead to other horrible things.
There's more coming.
Because, if they have that mindset.
Yeah.
And... yeah.
Because this gets back to like in the emotionally immature world, the emotionally immature narcissistic partner starts to sequester or isolate their partner, and that's a form of control. I need you to not have those relationships again. And eventually, yeah, it can start to go to, oh, I don't really like when you're with that friend, or I don't really think you should be opening up and telling our stuff to your mom, or I don't really like the idea of you going to a therapist. And so they just close in the world of that person, and then they just, at that point, they are dependent on the narcissist for everything, you know. And so that's what the narcissistic, emotionally immature person's doing, is just narrowing their entire world so that then they are dependent upon the narcissist. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So it starts with that, delete all your old stuff.
I just like hate the idea of like telling my partner what to do, or my partner telling me what to do, like
Totally.
ever. It's like, obviously, if they're doing something bad, that just shows you who they are. I don't think it's your responsibility to try to change them.
No.
And like, you really opened me up to like the idea of just like differentiation and just like loving someone for who they are.
Yeah.
And not trying to change them, not trying to control them. And if you feel like you have to do that you could have valid reasons.
Yeah.
But just that means that's not your person.
Yeah,
Like,
I love it. Thank you. That makes sense. I feel like all the validation in the world there from that. And because look at it, and I love it. Let's break it down to the part where if the person could own their insecurity, if they're saying, you know, it's really difficult for me when I see your flirty comments or your old posts, you know, because then, okay, if he can own it, that's a me thing. You don't need to do anything different. But when I see that from you, that brings that up in me, and so then I can now go work on that. That's my insecurity. But I mean, if the person's saying that they want you to do that, they're not looking to self-confront. I think that's one of the biggest challenges. But if you, the person that asked the question, if you don't like the way that feels, please trust your gut. Because that's what I think happens in these narcissistic...
I think they did, because it's their ex.
Oh, good call.
So, good job.
Yeah, well done. Because I think that's the part where you just start to, you abandon your own sense of self in hopes of making this other person happy. I don't want to say I promise you, but if someone is saying those things, their insecurity, it runs deep. So they are saying, do this and maybe I'll feel happy. Nah, it didn't work. How about you do this thing now? So again, you're going to lose your entire sense of self trying to make this person happy, but that's a deep void that they need to go figure out how to fill. You can't fill that for them.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, those get me fired up, because it's like when you see that poor person that they're I gotta cater to this person that's just telling me what to do and how to feel and what to think. Yeah.
Do you have any tips on how to find the motivation to do stuff that you don't want to do?
That's tough. Yeah. Okay, you go first. What are things you maybe don't want to do that you have to do?
Like cleaning,
Yeah,
working,
cleaning's dumb. I don't think you should do that.
waking up in the morning. Just kidding. Oh gosh.
How do you get motivated?
I try with working, like I kind of just like lie to myself, and it's not even a lie. I'll just like, cause sometimes I'll be like opening my laptop and I'll just be like, oh my gosh, and then I'll just try to be like, okay, no, like I actually like my job, like it's fine, like I like my job, I like working, and it's like it just like puts me in a more positive mindset. But if you hate your job, then I don't know.
I think that's the thing. Maybe let's check on that for a little bit, because the things that you're trying to do that you don't want to do, and I know it's been an hour, so what if we don't see the thing on TikTok that we have to do, or it'll lock us out? Check. Okay. For anybody that doesn't know, at an hour, you have a little puzzle piece.
Oh my gosh.
Is it there?
It is.
Oh my gosh, Sid. The universe spoke to me. Did you get, how much time was left before it cut us off?
4 minutes.
Okay. That was crazy then. Did you do the puzzle?
Yeah.
Okay. For anybody curious, at an hour, it brings up a little puzzle piece. You have to slide it, or else it'll end the live. And we have the cameras turned around tonight, so that was just intuition, is what that was.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, what were we talking about? It was so good. It was
ADHD.
we haven't even talked about it in an hour. Okay, if you don't like the things you do. So, person, if you're still in the chat, I don't know when this was.
Oh, it was earlier.
Okay. We talked about, I think that's where my mind went, was I think we started with this, so if you've been here the whole time, this is a repeat.
Oh, it is?
Well, no, this part that I'm about to say.
Oh.
Socially compliant goals. So if you're doing things because you think you're supposed to, Mom just said check the Instagram comments. You check those?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. If you are, now I'm so curious, is somebody like going off on Instagram?
No.
Okay. Let me come back to the present. if you are doing things that you think you're supposed to, that you don't like to do, one of the first and best things you can do is accept the fact that this is something I am not enjoying. There is nothing wrong with you. This is the first time that you are you in this situation, so check that out. This is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm thinking. Because it is difficult. I'm going to say it drives me crazy when somebody's like, I know I should like to do this. No, you shouldn't. If there's something you don't like to do, the best thing you can do is acknowledge the fact that this is not something I really enjoy doing. So, because there's nothing wrong with you. That's okay. Now, if it's a job and you have, let's say you've got this value of providing for yourself, then the but is, but I don't like my job. And then it's like, I totally don't like it. And I'm accepting that, but that's not a productive thought toward this value of providing for myself. Because if you're in a position that you just don't like what you do, then I want to give you permission there to start to dream and think of things that you would like to do. It doesn't mean you have to quit your job today, but just start giving yourself the permission. Allow yourself to just think, this isn't something I like to do, and it's okay for me to try to find something else. Now, if you are not in a position to do something else, there's an amazing thing in acceptance and commitment therapy called expansion. And you're kind of doing it a little bit, Sid, in a good way. And what expansion means is I'm going to make room for the fact that I don't want to do what I don't want to do, and then I'm going to invite that to come with me while I do it. Because one of the best things we can do is learn to change the relationship with your thoughts and your brain. And this is so lame. I always thought this was funny, but it didn't go over well when I would go do this when I'm speaking. I would say for my next trick, my brain is telling me right now to raise my right arm. See, I'm not doing it. And I would say, thank you very much. Isn't that funny?
I don't get it.
I know, but it's funny. What I'm saying is that if your brain is saying, I don't want to do this, I'm like, totally, while I do it. So I can invite not wanting to do it to come with me. There was a time we just got our Peloton bike. I remember I had some long day at work. I was trying to do some 30-day streak just because. And I got home and I'm like, I don't want to do this. And I just thought, okay, I don't want to do this. Well, I put on my little bike shorts and I go down on the Peloton. I'm like, there's no part of me wants to do this. I'm like, totally. Well, I started doing the workout. And this is the part where in the Disney version of this, I would say, and you know what? I got number one. It was the greatest workout. No, the workout was horrible. It wasn't very fun. But I brought all that with me, and I did it because that was what I wanted to do. So you can make room for all the things that you don't want to do while you do them. Does that make sense, though?
Yeah.
So I like doing push-ups between sessions with clients, and a lot of times when I close the door and I got 5, 6, 7 minutes, I tell myself I don't have time to do them. I don't want to do them, and I'm like, totally. And most of the time I'm down and doing them, and it makes me laugh. Because then I'm doing a push-up and I'm like, I don't want to do these. I'm like, totally, but I keep doing them.
Yeah, and it's like it doesn't feel good while you're doing it, but the feeling after of doing it is so much better than avoiding it.
I love that.
I think that I've definitely learned that.
Yeah.
Because it is so much harder to just have all these things that you have to do and you're not doing them. Like, that's not a good feeling either.
No.
So it's like either feel that not good feeling or feel not good while you're doing it and then feel good after.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
and that will give you a chance to really dig deep in your core. Though if it's something that it goes against your values, it's something that you just can't believe you're doing, then acknowledge that. That's okay. And then you're giving yourself again permission, grace to start looking for other things to do. Mm-hmm. Okay.
My family and myself believe I'm BPD. Best way to go about getting diagnosed.
That's a tough one. So borderline personality disorder. Any of the personality disorder. I mean, if you really want to do this the right way, you go to a clinical psychologist. So, and this is maybe a fun time to go through very quickly. So I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I get an undergraduate degree, I get a master's degree, and then I practice. I get 3,000 hours as an intern, take a licensing exam, but then if you go on and get your PhD, so you get your doctorate, then you are a clinical psychologist, and those are the ones that part of that schooling is they know how to do diagnosis. They work, do diagnosis for courts and family reports and stuff. So you can go get a diagnosis. It's interesting though when she says my family says this and I agree. My spidey sense tingles a little bit, because if my family says I think you're borderline, a lot of times that if the person who is struggling with borderline personality disorder, it's in that same personality disorder cluster as narcissism, histrionic, antisocial, and I think all of those are rooted in some deep need for validation, needing somebody else to say they're okay. Mm-hmm. And so if they're like, okay, I guess I'm borderline, so I hope that you will go to somebody that really understands what they're talking about, because I've had a couple of experiences with borderline in particular, where a spouse has thrown a borderline diagnosis on their partner, and they're not. I mean, I don't believe that this. There's one in particular that I will think about often, where then the person went through years of diagnosis and treatment, and when I would talk with them, borderline is there's a great book that's called "I Hate You, Don't Leave Me," and that's kind of the vibe that you get from someone with borderline personality disorder. But I think that the borderline symptoms can sometimes look similar to when someone they're immature in their relationship with you. So you are anxiously attached, or you got a disorganized attachment style, and so there are times where they're giving you all the praise and validation. You feel great, and then other times where they are completely dismissive, and you get really anxious because you're like, do you like me or do you not like me? And they almost have this power to then go avoidant, and it causes you to get even more anxious. So that can feel a little bit like this push and pull in a relationship. So if the borderline, again, go get the diagnosis, but then be really honest in the assessment, because if you're trying to guess what the right answers are so you can get the borderline diagnosis because that's what your parents said, then I hope you can see, I hope that you can be honest with yourself and then whoever is running the assessment, or with your therapist, because just because somebody else tells you that you are does not mean that you are. Is that fair?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay.
And someone wanted us to repeat the question about the like ex liking things so they could, or like telling them to delete things so they could.
Okay.
But this will be re-uploaded. You don't have to. I was just saying, like,
okay.
this will be on YouTube, and I can make it a chapter. I'll put it up like tomorrow or the next day.
Oh, wait, what my friend Kobe says, you need a better TikTok microphone. You goober, it's too echoey. Oh yeah? Well, he needs better headphones, right? No, I'm kidding.
Wait, let me hear it. Oh, it's not on here.
Okay.
Dang it. Wanna buy it for us?
He will. Oh yeah, thank you, Kobe. We'll do that. Okay. Let's see.
Do you need another question?
Yeah. How long do you want to go?
I don't know.
We're past that hour. Whatever you think. How do we got? You want to take a couple more?
Yeah, we'll take a couple more questions if anyone has one. I'll do one from I was gonna do a really old one, but I'll do one that just popped up.
Okay. Pick one that you have a strong opinion on as well. That'd be fun.
Oh wait, there was one on Instagram. Is narcissism Is a narcissist person always a narcissist in every relationship, or is there a possibility a narcissist can be in a relationship where they are not a narcissist?
Great. It's a really good question, and the answer is no, because it's a personality disorder. So that is their personality. So that's like that is who they are, and because they they lack this sense of self. They need a tremendous amount of external validation, not taking ownership of their own issues or problems. So that's just who they are. And it's a great question though, and maybe it's almost hard to explain, but this is where, please go listen to my Waking Up to Narcissism podcast. And especially, I think I've done 8 or 9 episodes that are the Death by 1,000 Cuts episodes. And those do the best by far, because people just relate so much to the behaviors of the narcissist or the emotionally immature, because they're so consistent. They're so predictable, and it's because the narcissist just, again, lacks this real sense of self, so they're going to turn things back around on you. They're going to not take ownership of their part in things. They're very good at gaslighting. They lack empathy. They won't apologize. There's so many things that are so consistent, so that isn't something that they just bring into one relationship and not another.
Okay.
Although the love bombing is fascinating, though, because it is wild, because a narcissist will then show up and just tell you your everything. I like everything about you. We're very similar. I like all those things too. And then you just eat it up, because it's like, man, this is so easy. This person is so easy to talk to. And then down the road, all of a sudden, if they said, I love scary movies, and then a month later, now that you're in a relationship, and you're like, hey, let's go to a scary movie, and they're like, oh, I hate scary movies. And that's where then you're like, but I thought you said I did. I didn't say that. I don't know. So that's not something that they just do, because it's just who they are at their core. Yeah.
Okay. And is narcissism more nature or nurture?
Well, we've talked about this a little bit.
I don't remember what we said. Is it it's nurture?
I think it's more, yeah. I mean,
it comes from someone not caring for you when you were a child, right?
Yeah, and it's the modeling. So and this is where does the narcissism start? I mean, you have to break these transgenerational patterns of in the family system, because most likely the person who has been raised by an immature narcissistic parent or parents. They didn't see their parent model taking ownership of things. And I remember doing an episode where I had some examples of, a dad getting really mad at his teenage son, telling him that, don't lie to me. And then the doorbell rang, and then the teenage son went and said, hey, it's so-and-so. And he's like, tell him I'm not here. So he just said, you don't lie to me, but it's okay for me to lie. And I know that sounds pretty simple, but it's just the inconsistency of the pattern there. So I think so much of it is what the person sees modeled. I think about this often, about even in my growing up, there were things that I wasn't modeled, that it wasn't because my parents were trying to do anything bad, but it's just it wasn't something that maybe they were big on. I mean, I think about therapy often. It's pretty bizarre that I decided to be a therapist. I'd never been to therapy, And so I think a lot of times when a parent has never gone to therapy, then they're not going to encourage their kids to go to therapy. And so at some point, it's the behavior that you're modeling. I don't know if that's the best example or not. But.
This one I can answer.
Okay, good.
I'm the son of a missionary, but I am openly secular. Any advice? And I definitely have had to go through this.
Okay.
So, for me, it's just like you have to lose needing validation from your parents. Like you really do, and you have to give it to yourself, because if like that is your identity and you feel like strongly in that and that's who you are, like do that,
Yeah.
And you're not going to make your parents happy, but you're going to make yourself happy, and that is like so much more worth it.
I love that. Like, I want to just talk about this stuff with you all the time, because sometimes I just want to go back and just I know that apologize for because when the parent thinks that they're doing the best thing for their kid, but they're really doing the thing, and this is my opinion, but they're doing the best thing that they think for the kid, but they're not being curious about what the kid wants, or
And that's something that was important for me too, is like I like intention is like so important.
Yeah.
And I always knew that like my parents' intentions were good, so like our relationship never got messed up. Like same with my mom, my mom and me. Like I love my mom, but at the same time, even if their intentions are good, that doesn't mean that what they're telling you to do is the right thing for you.
Or that it doesn't hurt your
knows.
feelings.
Yeah.
Or did you have times where you just felt just so frustrated with us?
I think so. I don't even know. I don't really remember.
Is that awkward to talk about?
No, I just don't really remember a lot of it because I think it was like a really hard time.
Yeah.
But
I remember, I think we've talked about this before, but when you were a junior or a senior, and then you were starting to, it's so funny to say this because it's going to sound you were starting to wear shorts and other things.
Showing my shoulders.
That's right. And I remember you would like run down and you're leaving, and I would almost feel like you were almost like saying, yeah, what are you going to say about it, old man?
No.
And I'm like, have fun,
No, I wasn't doing that.
Okay.
I was just being who I wanted to be.
Yeah, no, I love that. I did. Yeah. Any other like thoughts about how can someone in that situation? Did you try expressing yourself to us? Do you remember?
Like, what do you mean?
Like how can they? Sometimes I think I used to do more teenager therapy, and it was like they just had to know. And this is before I really understood the concepts around differentiation. That it's like different. I want to maintain a connection with this person without giving up my sense of self, or I'm going to develop my autonomy or hold on to myself while I develop this relationship. That's hard to do. And so sometimes I remember this one guy, and I really liked him. He was 17, turning 18, graduating high school, and he just learned that he was okay, so he didn't need to convince his parents that he was okay, if that makes sense. And so they were sitting there saying, he's changed, he's doing everything great. It was because he was stopping, like getting angry at his parents. They were still saying, we think you need to do this and be this person. And he just got to the point where he was like, okay, period,
Yeah.
Because him trying to convince them that they were wrong, they just dug in their heels. Yeah. So sometimes I wonder if that would be a helpful way for somebody that is, as they're developing their sense of self.
Yeah, I think so, for sure.
Because that need for external validation is, I need you to know how I feel. Now, that would be great if the parent was curious and they could have those conversations, but I think at some point it's like, I know how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
All right. Do we wrap it up?
I think so.
Let's do it.
Unless anyone else has anything they want to throw in. My TikTok froze, so
It
sorry
did?
TikTok.
Okay. Okay.
Thank
Hey,
you.
thanks everybody. That was good.
guys.
So we will be back. Are you cool next Sunday night?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mackie said she would want to do one with us all too.
Oh yeah, that'd be
If we-
fun.
yeah, so we'll have next week. We'll probably have us, the three of us, and you guys can get into the story again. Where did you 5-star her, or did she 5-star you on your back?
Oh, should I lie or should I tell the truth?
Stay tuned next week to see who slapped the other one in the back so hard it left a starfish. Right? Okay, all right. Thanks everybody. This is funny. Now I can't do the thing where I just go stop it with my finger. So I don't know. Do you want to go close it out? All right. Okay. Thanks everybody. Thanks for coming. You can go to TonyOverbay.com. Please sign up for my newsletter. A lot of stuff coming out. Subscribe to the podcast, all that kind of stuff. And we'll see you next time.
Wait, this is gonna. I don't even know how to do this. Oh, of course,
Take it out of
it's
there.
blocked.
Okay.
Is what it's all about.